Is Harry Kane hampering Tottenham's form, right?
Yes.
I watched that game against Chelsea, and I will say now, Harry Kane looked disinterested. He didn't want to get the ball. He looked like he just wanted to not be there. Harry Kane hampering Spurs as a team? Because if you look at the wins against Wolves, if you look at the wins against Watford, and Man City, Kane didn't play in those games. Okay, you look at the last two games, they have lost 3-0 against Crystal Palace and Chelsea. So, Des, are Spurs being hampered with Harry Kane in the side?
I don't think it's as simple as that. Harry Kane's a quality player who anybody would take every day of the week. And because of the fact he's not signed for Manchester City, he's got to play. It's as simple as that. Would I keep a player that wanted to leave? Absolutely not. There's going to be something in there where he's not giving it quite 100%, as much as he probably wants to, as much as he thinks he's doing the right thing. Something somewhere just going to hold him back a little bit. It might be that tackle he should make, or getting in front of a man for a header, that kind of thing. So, Nathan spoke about Nuno Espirito's tactics, for example. That's not going to help, especially against a good side. Against Crystal Palace, I'm not quite sure what happened there. I didn't see the game, but I think that there's a degree of it, isn't there? And they've got to sort of. It's like when you have an argument, you've got to get back. You've got to ease back together, and start to feel comfortable around each other. And I think to some degree, Kane's probably sort of easing his way back into the team. Probably the people around him, Daniel Levy or the manager, probably they're not quite on the same page at the moment. And I think it'll all come good, because he is too good. He does start the season like this. Notoriously, there was a thing for many years that he didn't score in August. He'd never scored in August at one point.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think watching the game on Sky yesterday and the chaps talking on there and getting really sort of irate with him, there was absolutely right. Well, he's a striker, and at the end of the day, he needs to get himself on the end of things. I think he's a bit frustrated. Tottenham have become, from a really enterprising side, they've become really sort of workmanlike in midfield.
Yeah.
The two midfielders, and the fact I think they was in even more protective mode because of the defence that they couldn't put out. So he was going to fetch his own balls. He was trying to do a bit too much on his own. When Tottenham are on fire, when they've got players, Son and occasionally Bale last year or whoever, Lo Celso, when they're on fire and bombing forward and they've got them dynamic midfielders in place, Harry Kane can do what he wants. Yeah. It's as simple as that, isn't it? So yeah, I guess he is to some degree, but I don't think you could do very much about it. I think Michael Richards was putting up the argument, what do you do then? Nothing, because I think ultimately he will drive Tottenham on. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's the game on this weekend against Arsenal, because that's kind of what he's there for, isn't it?
But surely, Nathan, you would be obviously up for every single game, not just like some games, because you look at Kane's body language at the weekend, and Crystal Palace marked him out of the game. Chelsea did well to, mark him out of the game. Okay, I know Chelsea weren't great in the first half, but we can obviously say that for another time. But the worrying thing for me is, if Kane is not up for it, why do you play him?
Exactly. I mean, he should have been dropped ages ago. And even when the transfer window was open, I thought it was a massive mistake playing him, because he clearly does not want to be at the club. He wants to be sold, yet you still play him, and you get performances like that. He needs to be dropped saying, look, we're not going to tell you. We're going to keep you off the team until we are satisfied that you are either going to stay at the club or you're going to go. We want a decision like that. And not only that, it's given to him that he does not want to be at the club. And if he's getting performances like that, then his attitude is terrible. He should be dropped and sold because it's going to be bad for both parties, and they might as well get the money for him now than wait for a player to get back to his form who doesn't want to be there and see performances like that.
Yeah, Neil, do you think Kane will have one eye on the January window?
But who's going to want to buy him with his injury record? And also, if he's not performing now, why would any team want to buy him? I think you got to remember that every team has a player that they look to and to go when things are going wrong. They always go in. They go, what's going to happen? So, for example, the one I used last year was Fernandinho for Man City. Was that guy that when everything goes wrong, he's like, "This is not on. I'm grabbing this by the scruff of the neck. We are not. I think it was against us a 5-2, and they go, we are not losing like this again. Let's snap out of it and get back up there." And if you're for Tottenham, the star man is Harry Kane. If he's down in tools, then the rest of the team's going to go, well, and we're going to carry Harry Kane. He's a Tottenham fan. I know they love him, but they've got to be disappointed with that. He will come good. I think he'll still get a load of goals this season. But also, one thing I want to say as well, just kind of on the Fernandinho thing, they don't have a leader that will go, right, we're gonna get this and go forward. They've got nobody that's got experience at winning at the top level or grabbing the gate, because you're really tested as a team. I think all of our teams have seen it. When the chips are down, when everything's going to shit, then you've got to go, right, now who's going to pick up the pieces? And I can't see a single person at that. I can't see Nuno being that person. I can't see the centre. Can you name a single Tottenham person? It should be Harry Kane, because he is the golden boy of England. And if, to be fair, if that's another player, he's getting criticised way, way more than that. 100%. But because it's 100%. Golden boy Harry Kane, he gets away with a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Reece, he's a media darling of English football. So, like, this, like, people, like, basically, remember that tweet he came out, like, he thought, everything's forgiven. But with a bad performance like that, the fans will want to have Nuno to have a serious talking to. But I suppose a game that can get him really, really up is the North London derby. Who, he's the highest scorer, I think, in North London derby history. But what did you make of Harry Kane's performance yesterday?
I've always been consistent with Harry Kane in terms of performances. He's always up there, top professional and all that, and he delivers when it matters, and I'll give him that. But I honestly agree with Nathan in terms of, like, if there's a player that's unsettled, don't play them unless they're fully committed. And I'm going to use one player that seems to be constantly in the limelight for a similar circumstance, and that's Pogba. He's always in that same circumstance of, his agent's a cunt. Is Pogba the issue? No, it's not. Pogba's not the issue. It's his agent who's always making these issues, which then reflects on Paul. And Paul's having to deal with the fan base, the media, stupid agendas, and where the manager plays him or not. And he does, in fact, show to his game that he is committed to the club. And I've seen that in performances. But in terms of Harry Kane, I haven't seen him show any form of commitment to Tottenham. And I think the one thing that stands out, and honestly, God, Gary Neville, you're a Man United legend, I'll give you all this, but you're a fucking clueless hypocrite, mate. Because how can you call the England captain, by the way, who, to be fair, is quite average, how can you actually say that he is a saint, a top professional, when he doesn't turn up to training? You should always turn up to training, whether you are in the midst of being sold or you're going to be kept on. Doesn't matter who you are, you turn up and do your job. If it was one of us at our jobs, if we were in the midst of decision making, or do we want to move elsewhere, if we didn't show up for work for one day, we would all be in our manager's office getting the sack. We would be. There's no denying it. And I'm thinking, it's because he's that media darling, he's got all that status, he thinks he's above everybody else. No, you're freaking not. And what annoys me. And that's what annoys me is that attitude, and that needs to be reflected. And the fact that he's not fully committing these last two performances for these games, he's going too deep when he doesn't have to be. He's not showing enough commitment. He's 30 yards away from the frickin' box when he should be there getting on the ball. There was one comment. I watched the highlights. I watched a video. It was on YouTube. It was Souness and Keane and Michael Richards. They were talking about Harry Kane's performance in particular. And there was one comment that stood out. Funnily enough, it was Graham Souness. I can't believe I'm agreeing with him, but he spoke sense. He said, even when the ball was out wide, Harry Kane is not getting into the box. Like, he doesn't actually care. Like, he's not getting in the box to actually make an attempt, even have an attempt at getting near Chelsea's goal at all. He's not actively interested. And I'm like, well, if you're not interested, then just go and sit on the bench and get somebody else to play who actually wants to, like that young Parrott guy. Let him have a go. Like, he may be 18, 19 years old, but I bet you he would actually get into the box because he's committed to Tottenham. Like, I look at around him and I'm like, this is an issue for him. If he's their best player by a mile, but he's not actually wanting to show commitment. If that was anybody else in the Premier League, they would be lambasted. But because it's Harry Kane, he gets off scot-free, and that fucking annoys me.
Yeah, Neil, you were going to say something?
Just on the back of what Reece was saying, I've just shared I was thinking, what did he say again? I went and read it, and it's given completely different context now. If you bring up the, I can read it now. It's almost 10 years since I made my Spurs debut. Every single one of the years, the fans have shown me totally loyal and support. That's why it hurts to read some of the comments that have been made this week, question my professionalism. I won't go into the specific situation, but I want to clarify that I would never and have never refused to train. That would be I will return to the club tomorrow as planned. This is for me is killer. I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize the relationship I have with the fans who have given me so much unwavering support during this time with the club. This has always been the case today. Harry Kane. So even from them words now, you can tell that this was only a couple of months ago that he's not stuck to his word.
Yeah,
even if it is one match, sure, but it spits in the face of fans again because he's attacking them when he's doing the opposite. Proper hypocritical.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chris Welsh said it's all words as well.
I think it's just interesting that you mentioned, Doug, that has he got an eye on the transfer window? It's interesting that City, all of a sudden, Pep's getting lambasted for no strikers. So this could go on. This could get sort of deeper and deeper, and all of a sudden it could be a massive thing by January.
Yeah, it could well be. Nathan, can you see City going back in for him in January?
At the moment, no. Only because of the way his attitude is. But if things start to turn around, then I think they'll have a punt at it because they really do need a striker. Jesus, for me, doesn't mark up to it. But yeah, perfect club for Kane.
I don't think... I look at that and Kane doesn't... Pep doesn't appreciate that sort of attitude from a player. Like, you saw it was Zlatan at Barcelona.
It could get him back in line, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it could, but I just think that sort of attitude he will not appreciate. I look at like the perfect example is Zlatan. He signed him to help him complete the sextuple in 08-09. When they completed that going into the 09-10 season, he was still heavily involved in the team, but his attitude, although Zlatan's one of the absolute best to play the game, he was still heavily critical in that sense for his behaviour, and I think Pep doesn't like that sort of attitude. He got rid of Samuel Eto'o as quick as he could because he's a player with too much character and too much attitude, and he's one of the best I ever saw. But the second he gets a player like Harry Kane, and if he has the same sort of attitude, he will be out the door in his arse. Like, he will be. I think it'd be a mistake if they go in for Kane. I think they're better off looking elsewhere.
The thing is, I agree to the most part, but Riyad Mahrez spits in the face of that. His attitude was terrible when he left before he left Leicester City, and he was benched for quite a while. I think 2 years. He didn't really get a decent performance. Now, after 2 years, he's got his act in order. When he's kind of past his, but he's still a quality player. Don't get me wrong, but he's kind of 30, 31 now. So he's coming to kind of the end of his peak of his career, and now he's turning it up. So again, that's one that can kind of counteract that.
He could do. He could do it, though. I agree. He could certainly do it, but I just hate the fact is, like, he's a player that I admire Harry Kane, but his attitude, honestly, it's appalling to see from such a so-called saint and professional. Like, and he has to come and attack fans, like, and being hypocritical about it. That's not what you're there for. I think it's absolutely pathetic, though.
Chris Welsh says, I'm sick of certain players like Kane being treated like a good boy by some people, didn't turn up for training. That's criminal. Some people treat him like a dog who's been good dog, giving him dog treat. Yeah, absolutely.
Even Pogba, in circumstances, Pogba, when he was getting criticised in the media, Pogba never once failed to turn up. Like, if his performances may not have been great at times, but he was still delivering. But he always turned up for training. He always turned up for matches, and he always at least put in 100% on the pitch. Harry Kane, for me, I haven't seen it.
James Dunlop says, I can't see City getting Kane in January. You don't see many big January deals these days. Kane wants to leave. Body language says it in the last 2 league games. If Tottenham had a brain and eyes, they would sell Kane. He wants to leave. You should always sell a player that wants to leave, as Des said earlier. Put
Agreed.
Lukaku in that position and imagine the dog's abuse he'd get. Absolutely.
Oh, he'd be slaughtered.
Yeah, he would be. If I'm Spurs, I'd seriously start planning for a Kane-less future now. Get Mura and Son more involved. They're the guys left behind once again. When Kane said he was staying at Tottenham, it's all words, and all words means nothing. So that's what we were saying as well. And then Hella says he's throwing a strop. Put a foreigner in Kane's position. I'm not normally this cynical, but Engel's bias is crazy. Lukaku, Salah, or Mahrez don't turn up for training and watch the outcry.
Can you see a potential front three for Spurs being Brian Gill on the left, maybe Son through the middle, and Moura or Bergwijn up top? Because I know Bergwijn and Moura are a little bit hit and miss, but I look at Brian Gill who's coming in. He's got to live up.
Especially with Bergwijn.
Yeah, Moura and Bergwijn, they're with the ball, they're brilliant to watch. Like, especially when they're coming at you with pace, they are brilliant. It's the end product, I think, at times they lack. But Brian Gill's got to prove himself. But I look at Son, I'm thinking he's the best option actually put through the middle. I think he's the best option now. But do you see anything for Nuno in terms of fixing things? Because he has to drop Kane. He has to drop him.
Son can't carry a team.
No,
Harry Kane can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Original Gunner.
Sorry.
Original Gunner says Kane should be England captain. If this is his attitude because he didn't get his move, as athletes at the top, people are meant to look up to him. And if this is his attitude, then it sucks. I'd sell, to be honest. If as a foreign player, people will howl at the moon like a wolf. Yeah, absolutely as well. And Declan said it's going to take Kane a while to get back to wanting to give everything for Spurs. He obviously had been sold the idea that he was off to City, and he probably feels betrayed by Levy. Now playing with a very average Spurs side.
Contract in 2021. Come on, man. Gentleman's agreement.
Exactly.
That's fair, guys. Fair comments all round.
Guys.